So let's concentrate on voice and face-to-face initially. So when you're sending information to another person or another party, there are three main things that you need to consider before or whilst you're sending that information. First of all, the information you're sending should be simple and concise. These little datum or data packets we're sending over should be nice and easy, bite-sized chunks for us to digest. If we start sending over really complex chunks of convoluted data, we're making it much harder for the receiver to understand what we're saying. Hence me using simple language as much as possible. As well as making the datum simple and easy to break down, our delivery should be well paced. That's not too slow, but not too quick. A nice, easy, paced delivery that is easy to hear and easy to deliver. One of the problems of speaking very quickly is you're making it difficult for your mind to keep up with your mouth. Now, although our brain works much quicker with non-verbal dialogue, with verbal dialogue we have to take our time more. Otherwise we end up mumbling and tripping and saying whatever. And that's not good communication. That's not good clarity. Because obviously the third part is talking with the correct volume and with clarity. In other words, with good articulation. And how articulate you make yourself is down to partly how well you've been educated or how well you've educated yourself, and secondly, how much effort you put into how you speak. Lazy speakers will talk like that and they'll let their voice go whatever, whereas somebody that's putting a lot of effort in will make sure that they finish off each word and delineate between each sentence. It's very important to be articulate, particularly if you're involved with sales, customer service or any of the communication roles. So simple words, spoken clearly, evenly paced and at the right volume is a summary of how we should deliver the information. As an aside, the perils of not speaking clearly, slowly and with good articulation can be very hazardous to your job. And I'd like to talk about Gordon Brown here, the previous Prime Minister some years ago. He spoke too quickly. In fact, he spoke 17 words per breath as opposed to 6 words or even the 4 that Winston Churchill spoke at. Never in the field of human conflict. Space, time, easier to process. Now, obviously that was not very good Winston Churchill impression, but Gordon Brown would speak 17 words per pause. And yet he would talk with a very dull, gruff accent and not really make much sense because he was speaking so many words before he took a breath like I'm doing now. And he'd have that strange intake breathing process, which is from his childhood, which meant that he would be talking too long without a break, making it hard for people to understand him. Couple that with a very dull and back of the throat, depressing sounding voice that didn't have vigour and charisma like perhaps someone like Tony Blair might have, then you're getting the double whammy of uninteresting and too much information delivered at too low a volume with not enough clarity. Now, I'm not saying that when he went to the polls 18 months after his pollsters said he should go, it had anything to do with the fact that when he was at the Labour conference 18 months earlier and he was supposed to deliver the absolute coup d'etat speech that was going to move him on the opinion polls up to winning the election. I'm not saying that he didn't go to the polls because he delivered such a bad speech that his ratings started tanking the very next day, so that actually he never recovered from it at any point from that speech onwards. I'm not saying that the bad speech had anything to do with it. Well, maybe I am. Because in my opinion, that speech that was delivered so badly, even though the content was good, the delivery, the speed, the whole experience of how it was communicated was so badly received that it actually proved to be his undoing. So communication is really important, and in fact if I can't communicate effectively to you who are watching this video, then my entire business is under threat. So I take communication extremely seriously, and I'm always working to improve. And if you're not working to improve, you're sliding backwards. So the information now arrives with the receiver. And before we look at the receiver's side of things, I'd like to ask you this question. Whose responsibility is it that the receiver gets the absolute maximum out of the communication event? Is it the sender's responsibility or the receiver's? Now, if you've said to the screen, the sender's responsibility, you'd be correct. Because indeed it is our responsibility as the sender of the information to make sure that the receiver receives and gets the information. This is very, very important in effective communication. So how can we do this? Well, firstly, you want to make sure that what you're sending, that the information that you're sending over, that the receiver wants to receive it. It has to be relevant to the receiver. Now, if you've got to pass information over to the receiver and they don't really want to hear, make sure that it is relevant to them. Because if it's not, you've got no chance. But if it's relevant, even if it's something they don't want to hear, then you're halfway there to getting them engaged with what you've got to say. Relevance is everything. When I was at school, I struggled in lessons because I wasn't engaged by teachers who were giving me information that wasn't relevant. And it wasn't that I wasn't interested in the subject. One year I went from an E in history to an A with a new teacher who engaged me because he was relevant and interesting. And this is how we should communicate. Interestingly and relevantly, because that way we get the receiver to engage with us.